And now for a Carol press conference in full with Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara from this year's BFI London Film Festival. Here, have a look.
The screenwriter Phyllis Nagy, Rooney Mara, director Todd Haynes, Cate Blanchett, and producers Elizabeth Karlsen and Christine Vachon. Well, welcome everybody. Before I throw it open to everybody here, I just got a general question, which I guess is probably for you, Phyllis, and Todd, and maybe the producers, but I'm sure everybody would have a view on this, which is adaptations are very much tend to be of the era in which they're made as much as the era in which they were written. So this is a story from the 50s, obviously written in period, but there has to be a particular fascination for now, I think, or a particular relevance. Phyllis.
Wow. I'm sorry. What
why do you think that particular story now was the right time to make it a film?
Well, as to why it's right now, I think that's a better question for Liz, perhaps, in terms of getting it made right now. I think when things are made is as much a product of various circumstances. But in terms of the piece itself, what I would say is that this is at its root, a love story. And love stories there's always the right time. It's always the right time for love stories. Beyond that, perhaps Todd has something to add.
Well, maybe this is the right time for a love story between two women to be treated just as that, rather than a sort of an unusual phenomenon, just as a love story.
Yes, I think that because they could be anyone, that we don't call attention necessarily to the fact that they're two women in the way that maybe we're used to seeing such stories is perhaps what makes it a little different.
But I think even if this film had been made 5-10 years ago, I think it would have been, even if it was exactly the same, I think it would have been perceived as being more political. I think the landscape around the conversation around same-sex relationships has sort of advanced, in a lot of countries, not necessarily all the countries around the world. But so I think it doesn't have to represent or stand for everyone, and I think therefore the universality of the love story comes to the fore rather than any sort of political agenda.
Mm. And all love stories, I think, need that obstacle, that social obstacle or barrier that keeps the lovers from having full fruition of their feelings for each other. And sometimes, increasingly, that becomes harder and harder to imagine in Western life why two people couldn't be together. And it's why I think love stories like Carol in particular, and also when we all remember Brokeback Mountain being such a sort of revelation and a sort of excitement of that genre because of the setting and the time and place.
Mm. I mean, Romeo and Juliet wouldn't have been such a wonderful play if one wasn't a Montague and one wasn't a Capulet.
Exactly. They become these morality stories about social issues.
And in terms of Elizabeth, or Christine, in terms of getting it made, was the timing significant in any way?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've been obsessed with for many, many years, and as everyone on this table knows, it's been a long road. Phyllis and I first worked together, actually, again with Christine, on a film called Mrs. Harris that we did for HBO, and Phyllis mentioned it to me at the time and said, would I get involved? And it didn't work then, the rights weren't available, and it just wasn't the right configuration, but I find as a producer that when something gets under your skin and it just keeps coming back to you, that I just had a determination that I was going to get the rights to the book and get it made. And when that finally happened, I guess it was about a 10-year journey from when you first mentioned it to me. And I knew the book, and Phyllis had written a version a long time ago of a script that has changed substantially as she worked on it with Todd. But I then went back to Phyllis and said, look, I've got the book, let's do this. And Phyllis said, I can't. it's been too painful for me. There's been too many disappointments. And I just said, you're with me or you're without me, but either way, I'm doing it. I am doing this. I'm obsessed. It's going to be an incredible film. And luckily, she came on board. And then, you know, it's a project that just found the most, for me, perfect creative team. And Cate was on board from the beginning as Carol. And then Christine and I go back, almost 30 years and have been great friends and collaborators. And we talk to each other at least once a day about everything in our professional and personal lives. And there was one particular conversation where we were both bemoaning the states of our projects. And I was directorless and Christine was actorless on one of hers. And Todd was brought up and she was like, well, let's send it to Todd. And within 48 hours, we were on a course to make this film. And Rooney came on board, and you know, here we are 3 years later, and it was just the most incredible journey that thankfully had the end, which she saw on screen, that I could not be more proud of. And that really is, you know, that's Todd and Phyllis and Cate and Rooney.
Great. Well, if you'd like to put your hands up, you've got this question straight away here. Thanks.
Hi, Laura for Loose Lips. It's such a journey of femininity based on a book by a woman, starring two women, surrounding the love that two women have for each other. To Cate and the producers, do you see this as a breakthrough in the industry? And do you think that it will prompt more features of this ilk in future?
I mean, every time there's interesting, complex roles played by actresses on screen, someone says, do you think this is a breakthrough? Does this mean that there's going to be more of the same? We seem to every year find ourselves in the same conversation, that somehow it's remarkable. I think there's a swathe of great roles for women, and certainly a swathe of wonderful female performers. I think it's just time to get on with it, really.
Anybody else want to add anything in there? Okay, next question.
Thank you. A question for Cate. If you don't mind me asking this, you have that wonderful speech where you say a child is the most breathtaking gift, which is a wonderful line. Is that something you can really relate to as a mother? Did that come from the heart, I guess?
Sorry, we don't know who you are.
Oh, sorry, Simon Button Attitude
Who
Magazine.
are you?
Shall I leave now? Sorry, Simon Attitude Magazine.
Yes.
And another question, if I may. You know, at the moment it's a very interesting time for LGBT rights. There's gay marriage, but there's also India and Russia effectively banning homosexuality. Would anyone on the panel like to comment on what they would hope people will take from this film?
Actually, one thing about the time being now that I think has been particularly exciting is that this film is getting distribution in countries where even 2 years ago that would have been impossible, Turkey being an example. And the Turkish distributors rang and just said from the bottom of their hearts that means so much to them, that they can release this film and it really will have an impact and possibly engender social change and attitudes towards same-sex relationships and marriages. I mean, it's tough in Russia and in China. You know, we cannot sell this film there. I'm sure it will have underground and dangerous distribution, but it can, and I hope will, make a difference. And that's kind of an extraordinary thing.
Mm.
And I love there was an attendee at the New York Film Festival. It was a Chinese woman. She said, in China, all it takes is women looking at the trailer with Cate and Rooney, and they immediately want to turn gay. So we were like, awesome. We have billions of new Chinese lesbians. Gorgeous. Anyway, converts.
Okay, yes. You can get the microphone across there. Thank you.
Hello, Jerry Summers, 2% magazine. Question for Rooney and Cate. I enjoyed the wonderful screen chemistry in the film between the two of you. Could you talk a little bit about how you developed the screen chemistry as actors, set in a period of oppressive social mores in America?
Sweetheart?
This is your specialty question.
Yeah, people keep asking about this. I mean, my opinion is that chemistry isn't something you can create. Very much the same way in real life. You either have chemistry with someone or you don't. You can't. I mean, a director can create it in post, but it's not something you can work on. You either have it or you don't. And I mean, I felt lucky in that it was easy for me to feel chemistry towards Cate, not only because, you know, she's Cate, but just, you know, my characters spent much of the film just sort of in awe of this woman and enamored with her, and that was very easy for me to embody.
Likewise.
We also used the chemistry filter editor. Lachman and I, we shot the whole film through a chemistry silk stocking.
But also, I mean, it was so... both characters they're quite isolated. Not only because you know, their feelings for one another sort of set them apart from the worlds in which they inhabit, but you know, the gap in their ages, and you know, they go through a lot of processing these volcanic feelings independent of one another. So frankly, it was a relief to do sort of the scenes with Rooney. It's like, finally we get to, you know, be together. So it's actually, you know, yeah.
But in terms of thinking yourself back into the 1950s, I mean, what is the most difficult thing to come to terms with in terms of the, you know, the different outlook as there would be from today, do you think, in terms of those constraints?
Is that directed?
Well, that's no. Actually, Cate. I was going to say, who she disappeared. Yeah.
No, I read a letter recently written by a woman in China who's in the 1400s, whose husband was a nobleman and he perished, and this letter was found with his body. He was entombed, and the passion that was in this letter about how and she was pregnant with their child. I felt it was written yesterday. And there's a sense that somehow if people fall in love in the 50s because they're wearing girdles, that they don't feel the same things that we feel. And so it's about finding the timeless nature of that, the kind of the deeply human, eternal side of falling in love. And I was joking about Romeo and Juliet, but really, I mean, it's when you fall in love, it's as if no one else has experienced what you're experiencing. It's dangerous. You're out of control. It's akin to sort of panic and you know, and fear, and that's why, you know, your heart literally beats faster. And I mean, that doesn't change whether you're wearing a corset or, you know, whether you're wearing a G-string. It's sort of it's probably easier to get naked, but you know, but it's finding that connection.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Garth Pearce. I write for a variety of national newspapers here in the UK. The festival director, Claire Stewart, said this is the festival of strong women. Rooney and Cate, you're both strong women yourselves.
What does that mean?
I was going to ask you, what do you think a strong woman means?
I don't know. I'd ask you. What do you mean? What do you mean when you say strong?
I'm quoting Claire Stewart, the festival director
Claire,
of the
what did
London
you
Film
mean?
Festival.
I think it's a shorthand. It's like saying women are luminous. I don't really know what it means. It's probably just a catch-all for... I don't know. What's it a catch-all for? Driving the narrative?
I mean, I think it kind of goes to what you were saying earlier, how everyone asks that question, you know, oh, there's, you know, these two incredible female parts in this, and do you think it's changing? I think that's what they mean by strong woman. It's just like, because we had fully realized parts in the movie, it's somehow strong.
Right.
But really, it should just be normal.
I meant to say thank you.
But I think the problem is that it suggests an agenda that because these are less represented people, although they occupy over half the population, that they have this sort of social agenda and that they have a responsibility to be strong and courageous in the roles that they pick. And I think what you see in the work of both of these actors and the choices that they've made in their careers is that they're interested in playing human beings who are full of universal, you know, challenges, weakness, exploitation, that they're capable of abuse as characters as well as subjugation. So that the whole gamut is available to in many ways, and I'm in a tradition of directors that I greatly admire, feel that women's lives reflect even more range of experience because of the constraints that they often find themselves living under.
And in a sense, the sort of the idea of the strong woman is a kind of a type that we want to bust out of that one as well. Really.
If you come here, and I'll pick you up and show you how strong.
Okay, thanks.
Oh no! It's but it is interesting. It becomes a catch-all, I think, for complex, leading the film, perhaps.
Yes. Get a microphone right in the middle here. Oh,
that's very sexy.
You're just showing off, aren't you? Go on then.
Yes.
And who are you?
Your films are quite stiff in film history, but they're very emotional, like Circean. I find there's hard to do a balance. Or do you ever wonder that the referentiality inhibit the drama or the emotion?
It's. Did people hear the question? I guess they did. For me, it's a film by film issue and question. This film to me is not Circean. It doesn't have the expressionistic language of high melodrama. It really is, in my mind, I was looking very closely at love stories on film and how they function and how much point of view is how we remember great love stories when we're anchored with a certain character, usually the more vulnerable character in the relationship. And what's so interesting about Carol is that shifts. It begins when we're sort of looking at Carol through Therese's eyes. And by the end of the film, a lot has changed, and both of these women have undergone tremendous changes. And then it's Carol who reevaluates the extraordinary value of this young woman in her life and what that meant and how rare that is. And she comes back and invites Therese into her life. But of course, Therese, because she's weathered, pain and developed defenses like we all do as we grow up, is no longer that same person. And that's sort of, so you're left at the end with a possibility that they have a shot, but they've also changed a lot. And I think that's what's so bittersweet and complicated about the way the film ends.
Can you just wait? The microphone's just coming. Yeah.
For the director, Giovanna Grassi of Corriere della Sera, we all thank you for the portraits of the women in the movies. But I wanted to know, directing this movie with these two wonderful characters, did you discover something that you didn't know about the women, the love, the passion, the vulnerability of the women, or not?
I discovered that women have sex with each other. I had no idea. I did not know what that comprised itself of, looked like. No, I'm not sure if I learned. What I learned was that both of these actors, along the lines of what I was talking about before, about shifting point of view, that really great actors understand also and have an acute interest in the narrative language of the film and where the viewer is located. And what that also means is modulating their access at times, because Carol begins as the object of desire for Therese, and yet all of the dramatic conflicts reside in Carol's life. And so Cate had to navigate the fact that she's being seen through the eyes of this character, but really the big issues and the big events and the big conflicts of the story reside in her story. And then that changes, and we gain access to Carol, and that by the end of the film, Carol is the one looking through the window at Therese in the world, occupying her own station in life, having grown up, having changed, And that means that both of these actors had to sort of modulate and temper their performances accordingly in the story. And we were shooting out of sequence and under tremendous, under a low budget with constraints. So that knowledge and that awareness was remarkable to me. And I kept seeing that being confirmed in the editing room by the choices they were making, as performers.
But something that was really interesting that Todd did, which I found very useful, is the camera is so great at being objective or subjective. And so you were very clear about whose perspective the camera was catching. And so it's you were very clear who... So we were very aware of what piece of information to reveal in each shot, which was incredibly useful to be able to harness that.
And Rooney, did it throw up any particular challenges for you, that idea of the shifting perspective?
No, I mean, I don't... it was something we talked a lot about during rehearsal, but while we were shooting, I didn't really think about that much. I mean, when me and Cate were lucky enough to have a few scenes where they were several pages long, and we got to just do these long takes of it, and they were just incredible scenes to shoot because, like Cate said, we spent a lot of the film apart, and then when we came together and got to do these scenes, there was so many silent moments and so much nuance, and there's so much to respond to and listen to, and that was really exciting as an actor to be able to do that and to be able to play with the silence more. I mean, usually that's not the case.
Okay. Oh, sorry, up at the back there.
Hello, Maureen Kofla for Agence France Presse. It's a question for Cate. So you've been presented a bit like the star of this festival. You're coming with 2 films. You will receive a BFI fellowship. Do you have any comments about that, or do you? So you're the incarnation of this strong woman my colleague was speaking about.
I've had an embarrassment of riches in the last couple of years. To work with Todd again. And to make Truth, which is a very interesting piece of recent history, and that doesn't often happen within an 18-month period. So you grasp those things with both hands. But Peter Brook said a wonderful thing, which someone just reminded me of last night, is you hang on tightly and let go lightly. So the wonderful thing about filming is that it happens. This labour of love that we all made together, it happened 18 months ago? Yeah, and so you do have a chance to sort of let it go. And, the great thing about, festivals and having, obviously, Rooney was on it at Telluride and at Cannes, very different festivals, and then going to New York and here, is that you play to very different audiences, and it's always, you're still filled with the same trepidation as opening night of how is an audience going to receive it. That doesn't go away.
It's funny because actually the film has been screened so few times. This is our 4th or 5th festival.
Only our 4th or 5th.
Yeah, 4th or 5th festival. But we always have the question, are you going to stay and watch the film? Which, of course, we've seen it so many times because we've been with it from the dailies all the way through post. But the problem is that every time you think, no, it's fine, I've seen it. It's so exciting to be a part of the audience response to the movie. And it does vary slightly each time, but every time it's screened, I think we both, you feel so nervous. Will people get it? Will they like it? And we just watch it every time. You can't help but watch it just to be a part of the way that the film is received.
Yeah. Okay. Microphone's just coming here.
Hello, Ksenia Rudic, cinemafia.ru. In love is someone has been told, someone receive and someone give. So in your movie, it's question to Rooney and Cate. Who is receiving and who is giving more to other character?
You mean sexually or
no? No, about like experience, and because we talk a lot about shifting and growing up. So, what do you think? Who take more of this relationship?
I didn't realise it was a sum, but
I don't know. I mean, I think in a lot of relationships, hopefully there's an equal amount of giving and receiving going on. I mean, I definitely feel as though Therese got so much from Carol, but I like to think Carol got something from her as well. I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's like that wonderful moment in dance, isn't it, where you feel someone alight. And I mean, I think that's the feeling of falling in love, isn't it? It's like what Rooney was saying about chemistry, is that it ignites between you, and that's why you feel out of control, because I think you lose a sense of your own, the boundaries of your own skin. I mean, that's when you truly connect with someone. Well, at least that's been my experience.
But one of the great strengths, I would say, of this film is precisely that it leaves it in that sort of dynamic state of flux that you don't quite know where it's going, so that there is no sort of neat tidying up and saying this is, this person has it nailed and that person's devoted to them. It's not like that at all.
Yeah.
And I know you'd like to answer, but the two more, if I can take those two first. Yeah.
Hi, it's Ali from TV Guide. This is a question for anyone. I was wondering, at what point in the process was the decision made to call the movie Carol, when it's so much about both women?
And the book isn't called that, of course.
Well, I think there's been some give and take or some questioning of this. I called it Carol from the beginning because Pat Highsmith had changed the title of the novel herself when she republished it. And also I quite liked the sort of strange, obsessive nature of calling it by someone's name. Then there were other discussions, I think, along the way.
The book was originally called The Price of Salt. Phyllis, do you know why it was?
I do. This is from the horse's mouth.
I actually don't. That's why I'm asking.
Pat Highsmith was obsessed with the story of Lot's wife. That is exactly where it comes from. Does anyone need me to talk about Lot's wife? No, okay.
And Last Caution had already been taken, so...
Hi there, Daniel Sperling from The Sun. Question for Cate. When you were promoting the film earlier this year, there was an interview that got taken out of context and you had people speculating about your own sexuality. How did that feel? Are you still having to correct people? And were you worried about rejecting the idea kind of too strongly, given the film?
Journalists love commenting on journalists. It's just funny. It's, if I was playing someone who had an affair, I think there'd be a moment of pause before a journalist said, "So how many affairs have you had?" I think if I was playing an axe murderer, people wouldn't necessarily ask me how many people I'd murdered, and so I probably answered in a way that was a bit facetious, and to someone who was probably a little bit literal, and we misunderstood one another. I mean, look, I don't read it, to be honest. No offence, no. But I've been busy and got 4 kids, and yeah, so
Okay. It's probably going to be the last one, I think.
Hello, I'm Natalie Blenford. I'm freelance. It was a beautiful film. Congratulations. I loved it. Todd, my question for you. I went to Laura Rosenthal's session on Saturday where she talked about casting. And I just wanted to ask, what makes an actor's tape or audition stand out for you? Because all the parts were beautifully cast. So how did those people attract your attention?
There's a lot of key people, directors, cast, who don't audition. You base it on their prior work, and that's fine. I mean, I in the case of Rooney, I had watched the work that she'd been doing from the beginning.
We hope you enjoyed this broadcast from the Carol press conference at the BFI London Film Festival. The time now is 10:43. And you are listening to Nighttime on the Wake Up Crew. Coming up, we've got more banter and more hilarious episodes from the main Wake Up Crew team later on next week. and we'll be doing lots of Christmas episodes and very exciting stuff, so stay tuned for that. For more information, check out our Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram at The Wake Up Crew Radio. Take care for now.